March 14th, 1899, Volume 2. The evil of man forces God to chastise him. This morning my most sweet Jesus, transporting me with him, made me see the multiplicity of the sins that are committed. They were such, and so many, that it is impossible to describe them. I could also see a star of enormous magnitude in the air, and within its roundness it contained black fire and blood. It would strike so much fear and fright in looking at it that it seemed that death would be a lesser evil than to live in these times so sad. In other places one could see volcanoes with more mouths opening, which are also to inundate the country nearby. One could also see sectarian people who will go on causing fires. While I was seeing this, my lovable but afflicted Jesus told me, "Have you seen how much they offend me, and what I keep prepared? I am withdrawing from man." And as he was saying this, we both withdrew into my bed, and I could see that because of this withdrawal of Jesus, men would give themselves over to more awful actions, more murders. In a word, I seemed to see people against people. Once we had withdrawn, Jesus seemed to place himself in my heart, and he began to cry and sob, saying, "Oh man, how much I have loved you! If you knew how I grieve in having to chastise you. But my justice forces me to this. Oh man, how I cry and grieve over your lot." Then he would burst into tears, and again he would repeat those words. Who can say the pity, the fear, the torment that arose in my soul, especially in seeing Jesus so afflicted and crying? I did as much as I could to hide my sorrow, and in order to console him, I said to him, "O Lord, it will never be that you chastise man. Holy Spouse, do not cry. Just as you have done the other times, you will do now. You will pour it into me. You will make me suffer, and so your justice will not force you to chastise the people." Jesus would continue crying, and I would repeat, "But listen to me a little bit. Have you not put me in this bed so that I might be victim for others? Have I perhaps not been ready to suffer the other times so as to spare creatures? Why do you not want to listen to me now?" But with all my poor speaking, Jesus would not calm himself from crying. So, no longer able to hold it, I too broke the dike of my crying, saying to him, "Lord, if your intention is to chastise man, I too do not have the heart to see creatures suffer so much. Therefore, if you truly want to send the scourges, and my sins no longer make me worthy to suffer in the place of others, I want to come. I want to be on this earth no more." Then the confessor came, and as he called me to obedience, Jesus withdrew, and so it ended. The following morning, I kept seeing Jesus withdrawn within my heart, and I saw that people would come even inside my heart and would tread upon him and trample him underfoot. I would do as much as I could to free him, and Jesus, turning to me, told me, "Do you see where the ingratitude of man reaches? They themselves force me to chastise them, and I cannot do otherwise. And you, my dear one, after you have seen me suffer so much, may you hold crosses more dearly, and pains as delights." March 14th, 1900, Volume 3, How to Draw Souls to Catholicism. Since the confessor had given me the obedience to pray to the Lord that he would manifest to me what should be done in order to draw souls to Catholicism and to remove so much unbelief, I prayed for several days. and the Lord would not deign to manifest himself on this point. Finally, this morning I found myself outside of myself, transported into a garden which seemed to be the garden of the church, and in it there were many priests and other dignitaries who were discussing this topic. While they were discussing, a dog of enormous size and strength came out, and the majority of them were so scared and exhausted as to let themselves be bitten by that beast, and then they would withdraw like cowards from the enterprise. That fierce dog had no strength to bite only those who had Jesus in their heart as their center, who would thus form the center of all of their actions, thoughts, and desires. Ah, yes, Jesus formed a seal for these people, and that beast would become so weak as to not even have the strength to breathe. Now, while they were discussing, I heard Jesus behind my shoulder saying, "All other societies know who belongs to their party. Only my church does not know who her children are. The first step is to know who those are who belong to her, and these you can know by establishing a reunion one day, to which you will invite them, so that who is Catholic should convene to the appointed place for this reunion. And there, with the help of the lay Catholics, they should decide what it is advisable to do. The second step is to oblige to confession those Catholics who convene, which is the most important thing that renews man and forms the true Catholics. And this not only for those who are present, but they should oblige the leaders to oblige their subjects to confession, and if they do not succeed with gentle manners, they should dismiss them from their service. Once each priest has formed the body of his Catholics, then will they be able to advance to superior steps. In fact, recognizing the opportunity of the moment, the way to penetrate into other parties, and the prudence in exposing themselves, is like the pruning of trees, which makes them produce large and mature fruits. But if the tree is not pruned, it does make, yes, a beautiful display of leaves and of flowers, but as soon as a frost comes, or a wind blows, since the tree does not have enough sap and strength to sustain so many flowers in order to change them into fruits, the flowers fall off, and the tree remains stripped. The same happens in the things of religion. First, you must form a suitable body of Catholics, so as to be able to confront the other parties, and then you can come to penetrating into the other parties to form one single party." After he said this, I did not hear him any more, and without even seeing him, I found myself inside myself. Who can say my pain at not having seen blessed Jesus for the whole day, and the tears I had to shed? March 14th, 1904, Volume 6. Because of the necessity of the times, Jesus asks for silence, as he wants to chastise. As I was in my usual state, after I struggled very much, blessed Jesus came out from within my interior, and as I wanted to speak, he placed a finger on my mouth, telling me, "Be quiet, be quiet." I was left so very mortified and no longer dared to open my mouth. And blessed Jesus, seeing me so mortified, added, "Dearest daughter of mine, the necessity of the times brings silence, because if you speak to me, your word binds my hands, and I never come to the deeds, chastising as appropriate, and so we are always at the beginning. And therefore it is necessary that there be silence between you and me for some time." And while he was saying this, a sign came out with written on it, "It is decreed, scourges, pains, and wars." And he disappeared. March 14th, 1914, Volume 11. As the soul who lives in the divine will fuses herself in Jesus, she takes possession of all that belongs to Jesus, and he cannot refuse her anything. Today I was fusing all of myself in Jesus, to the extent of feeling Jesus alive and real within me. As I was feeling him, he said to me in such a tender and touching way that I felt my poor heart crack, "My daughter, it is too hard for me not to content one who does my will. As you see, I no longer have hands, feet, heart, eyes, or mouth. I have nothing left of my will, since you took everything. You took possession of everything. I have nothing left which is not yours. This is why deserved chastisements are not being poured upon the many, and great evils which inundate the earth, because it is hard for me not to content you. Further, how can I do that if I do not have hands? You don't believe me, do you? If hands were to be absolutely necessary to me, I would be forced to steal them from you, or to convince you, so that you yourself would give them to me. How hard this is. How hard it is for me to displease one who does my will. I would displease myself." I remained astonished at this speaking of Jesus. Not only this, but I could really see that I had the hands, the feet, and the eyes of Jesus. So I said to him, "Jesus, let me come." And he, "Give me a little more of life in you, and then you will come." March 14th, 1919, Volume 12. Effects of a suffrage done in the divine will. Luisa takes part in the pains which the humanity of Jesus received from his divinity. The first soul stigmatized in the divine will. While I was in my usual state, I found myself outside of myself, and I saw a late confessor of mine. A thought flashed into my mind. Ask about that thing which you have not told the confessor, whether you are obliged to tell it and therefore write it or not. I asked him, telling him what the thing was, and he said to me, "Of course you are obliged." Then he added, "Once you did for me a beautiful suffrage. If you knew the good you did to me, the refreshment that I felt, the years that I paid off." And I don't remember. Tell me what it was, and I will repeat it for you. And he, "You immersed yourself in the divine volition and took its power, the immensity of its love, the immense value of the pains of the Son of God and of all the divine qualities. Then you came to me and poured them upon me, and as you poured them, I received the bath of the love that the divine power contains, the bath of the beauty, the bath of the blood of Jesus, and of all the divine qualities. Who can tell you the good you did to me? They were all baths which contained a divine power and immensity. Repeat it for me. Repeat it for me." As he was saying this, I found myself back into myself. Now, in order to obey, to my highest confusion and repugnance, I will say the thing which I had neglected to say and write. I remember that one day my sweet Jesus, speaking about his most holy will and about the pains which the divinity made his most holy humanity suffer, said to me, "My daughter, since I have chosen you as the first one to live in my will, I want that you too share in the pains which my humanity received from the divinity in my will. Every time you enter my volition, you will find the pains that the divinity gave me, not those which the creatures gave to me, although these too were wanted by the eternal will. But since those were given to me by creatures, they were finite. Therefore I want you in my will, in which you will find infinite and innumerable pains. You will have countless nails, multiple crowns of thorns, repeated deaths, interminable pains, all similar to mine, divine and immense, which will extend in an infinite way to all, past, present, and future. You will be the first one to be together with me, the little lamb killed by the hands of my Father, to rise again and be killed again, not a limited number of times, as for those who have shared in the wounds of my humanity, but as many times as my divinity made me suffer. You will be crucified with me by the eternal hands, to receive in you the mark of the eternal, immense, and divine pains. We will present ourselves together before the throne of the Eternal One, with written on our foreheads in indelible characters, we want death to give life to our brothers. We want pains to free them from the eternal pains. Aren't you happy? And I, Jesus, I feel too unworthy, and I believe you are making a big mistake in choosing me, poor little one. Therefore mind what you do. And Jesus, interrupting me, added, Why do you fear? Yes, I minded for 32 years of bed in which I have kept you. I exposed you to many trials and even to death. I calculated everything. And then, if I am wrong, it will be a mistake of your Jesus, which cannot harm you, but only do immense good to you. But know that I will have the honor, the glory of the first soul stigmatized in my will. March 14th, 1920, Volume 12. The martyrdom of love surpasses almost in an infinite way all the other martyrdoms together. My state is ever more painful. While I was swimming in the immense sea of the privations of my sweet Jesus, my life, my all, I couldn't help lamenting and also saying some nonsense. And my Jesus, moving in my interior, sighing, told me, My daughter, you are the hardest martyrdom, the harshest pain for my heart. And every time I see you moaning, petrified by the pain of my privation, my martyrdom becomes more bitter. And the spasm is such that I am forced to sigh, and moaning I say, Oh man, how much you cost me. You formed the martyrdom of my humanity, which, taken by love's folly for you, took all your pains upon itself. And you continue to form the martyrdom of the one who, taken by love for me and for you, offered herself as victim for me and for your sake. Therefore my martyrdom is continuous. Even more I feel it more vividly because it is the martyrdom of one who loves me, and the martyrdom of love surpasses almost infinitely all other martyrdoms together. Then placing his mouth close to the ear of my heart, moaning, he said, My daughter, poor daughter. Only your Jesus can understand you and compassionate you, because I feel your very martyrdom in my heart. Then he added, Listen, my daughter, if with the chastisement of war man had humbled himself and entered into himself, other chastisements would not be necessary. But man has raged even more. Therefore, in order to make man enter himself, more terrible chastisements than war itself are needed, which will occur. Therefore, my justice is forming voids, and if you knew what a void is being formed in my justice through my not coming to you, you would tremble. In fact, if I came to you, you would make my justice your own, and taking the pains upon yourself, you would fill the voids which man forms with sin. Have you not done this for many years? But now the obstinacy of man makes him unworthy of this great good, and that is why I often deprive you of myself. And in seeing you martyred because of me, my pain is so great that I become delirious. I moan, I sigh, and I am forced to hide my moans from you, without even a chance to pour them out with you, so as not to give you more pains. March 14th, 1926, Volume 19. One who lives in the divine will must be the voice of all created things. In order to fulfill this office, the soul must be newly born in the divine will. The great difference that exists between one who is newly born in the divine will in time, like the celestial Mama, and one who is reborn in the divine will at the thresholds of eternity. I continue to dissolve myself in the holy divine will. I would like to embrace everything and everyone, to be able to bring everything to my God as my own things, given to me by Him as gifts, in order to give to Him, for each created thing, a little word of love, a thank you, and I bless you, and I adore you. And my always lovable Jesus came out from within my interior, and with his omnipotent fiat, he called the whole creation in order to place it on my lap, to give it to me as gift. And with all tenderness, all of love, he told me, "My daughter, all is yours." For one who must live in my will, everything which came out of my will and which my will preserves and possesses must be fully hers by right. Now it was my omnipotent fiat that extended the heavens and studded them with stars. My fiat called the light to life and created the sun, as well as all the other created things. And my fiat remained inside the creation as triumphant, dominating, and preserving life. Now one who has won the divine will has won the whole creation, and even God himself. Therefore, by right of justice, she must possess all that my will possesses. More so, since the creation is mute for its creator, and I made it mute, because the one to whom I was to give it, and who was to live in my will, would herself have speech in all created things, so that all things made by me might be speaking, not mute. So you will be the voice of the heavens, and echoing from one point to another, it will make your word heard, which, resounding through the whole celestial atmosphere, will say, "I love, I glorify, I adore my Creator." You will be the voice of each star, of the sun, of the wind, of the thunder, of the sea, of plants, of mountains, of everything, repeating continuously, "I love, I bless, I glorify, I adore, I thank the one who created us." Oh, how beautiful will be the voice of my newborn of my will, of the little daughter of my volition, in all things. It will render the whole creation speaking, and creation will be more beautiful than if I had given it the use of the word. I love you so much that I want to hear your voice in the sun, loving, adoring, glorifying. I want to hear it in the celestial spheres, in the murmuring of the sea, in the darting of the fish, in the bird that sings and warbles, in the lamb that bleats, the turtle dove that moans. I want to hear you everywhere. I would not be content if, in all created things, in which my will has first place, I did not hear the voice of my little newborn, who, rendering the whole creation speaking, gives me love, for love, glory, and adoration for each thing created by me. Therefore, my daughter, be attentive. I have given you much, and much do I want. Your mission is great. It is the life of my will that must be carried out in you, which embraces everything and possesses everything. Then after this I was thinking to myself, how can I do all that blessed Jesus tells me, being present in all created things, having one act for everything that the Supreme Volition does, as if it were to be my echo, and I its echo, if I am just newly born in the divine will? I should at least grow a little bit, to be able to diffuse myself a little more, as best I can, in all created things, as my beloved Jesus wants. Now, while I was thinking of this, he came out from within my interior and told me, "My daughter, do not be surprised if I tell you that you are the newborn of my will. You must know that my Immaculate Mamma herself is the newborn of my will, because in comparing what the Creator is and what the creature can be and take from God, she can be called a little newborn. And because she was the newborn of my will, she was formed in the likeness of her Creator and could be queen of all creation. And as queen, she dominated everything, and her echo ran well with the echo of the divine will. And not only the celestial sovereign lady, but all saints, angels, and blessed can be called just newly born in the eternal volition. In fact, as soon as the soul leaves her mortal body, she is reborn in my will. And if she is not reborn in it, not only can she not enter the celestial fatherland, but she cannot even be saved, because no one enters the eternal glory if one is not a birth from my will. However, I must tell you of the great difference that exists between one who is the newborn of the Supreme Will in time and those who are reborn at the thresholds of eternity. One example is my Queen Mamma, who was the newborn of the divine will in time, and because she was newly born, she had the power to make her Creator descend upon earth. And while he was still immense, she made him become little within her maternal womb, to clothe him with her own nature, and to offer him as Savior of the human generations. By being newly born, she formed seas of graces, of light, of sanctity, of science, in which to contain the one who had created her. By the power of the life of the Supreme Will which she possessed, she was able to do everything and to impetrate everything. God himself could not deny what this celestial creature was asking for, because it was his own will that was asking, to which he could not and should not deny anything. So one who is newly born in my will in time forms seas of grace while being in exile, and upon departing from the earth, she carries with herself all the seas of the goods which the divine will possesses, and therefore she carries with her God himself. To bring from the exile that will, that God who reigns in the heavens, is a portent. You yourself cannot comprehend clearly the great goods, the prodigies of one who is newly born in my will in time. Therefore, of all that I tell you, you can do everything, more so since my will itself will do it, as though identified with your little being. On the other hand, for one who is reborn in my will upon departing from the earth, it is the divine will that makes her find its immense seas, to make the soul be reborn in it. She does not carry her God with herself. It is God that makes himself found by her. What a difference between the two! Therefore greater grace I could not give you than making of you the newborn of my will. And if you love to grow, let my will alone grow. March 14th, 1937, Volume 34. The divine will is life, and as life it forms the generation of its life in the acts of the creature who will live in it, and forms the long generation of the children of its divine fiat. The divine volition never leaves me. It seems to me that in order to greatly confirm me and make me long to live in it, and not only me, but all those who will want to live in it, it wants to tell new things and what one additional act that one can do in its most holy will means. And my sweet Jesus, who acts as spokesman for a volition so holy, visiting my little soul, told me, "My blessed daughter, I need to still tell you what good one additional act that the creature does in my volition encloses. My will is life, and it does not know how to operate, nor do anything except generate life, nor can it do less than this. Now, in every additional act that she does in it, the generative act that it possesses becomes enclosed. The creature, by doing her act, lends it the veil for where to form and hide this divine birth. As the act is completed, so my will goes around through the entire world in order to find the more disposed souls, and it deposits its generated birth and forms there a child of its, of the kingdom of its fiat. See, therefore, what one additional act means, to form one more child in my kingdom. In fact, however many more acts are done in it, so much more will the kingdom of my volition be populated. My daughter, it is a delirium of our Supreme Being that we have, that we want, that the creature live in our volition. We use all the astuteness of love in order to obtain this purpose. How beautiful it is to see that our first children of the fiat will make use with their acts of forming the new generation of the life of our will in the creature. Our love is so much that we take the occasion of their act to give this great good that encloses heaven and earth." While he said this, my sweet Jesus made seen that he held in his divine heart all the acts done in his volition, also including those of the celestial Mamma, that were many. And within each act he generated the life of the divine will, as if he could not contain it any more. He took the step in order to go around through all the generations, and where he found some soul more disposed, he drew near, he embraced her, he spoke to her in her ear, he breathed on her, as if he would want to renew the new creation, and then, as if in feast, he deposited together with the act the life of his volition. He did not want to separate the act from its life, because being the primary act where he had generated his life, he did not want to separate it, wanting to use it as custodian of its same life. I, in seeing this, remained amazed and worried. I said to myself, "Is all this possible? It seems to me that it gives of the incredible." And my sweet Jesus, resuming his say, "Daughter, why do you marvel? Perhaps my will cannot do what it wants? It is enough it wants it, that everything is done. And then the sun, that can be called the shadow of my fiat, does it, as it finds the flowers, the plants. With the touch of its light it generates the color, the fragrances. It matures the plants and generates the sweetnesses in the fruits, and so many colors and such diversity of sweetnesses for however many flowers and fruits it touches with its light and warms with its heat. But if the sun does not find either flowers or fruits, it does not invest anything with its light and with its heat. It gives nothing. All the goods that it possesses it retains in itself. Such is my will. More than sun, as it finds the creature who wants it, it calls her into its act. It descends into the depth of the human act. It invests it, it warms it, it transforms it. And since it possesses life, it generates life and forms a divine portent there. And like the sun, if it does not find one who wants to live in my volition and form her act there, of the so many divine lives of mine that I could give, they remain in it, waiting with invincible and divine patience for the one who lets me generate my life in her acts. My will is like a tender mother who feels in herself the long generation of her lives that she wants to put forth to the light in order to form the long generation of her children who would form her kingdom. And therefore it goes, finding the one who lends her acts to it. But do you know why it goes to find the acts of the creature? Having to descend into the depth of the human acts in order to form its life, it wants to make its way in their midst in order to give its own life to the creatures. More so because life does not form itself on the outside of people, but always within. Otherwise the necessary things, the vital humors in order to form a life, would be lacking. In the same way, my will cannot form its life from heaven, nor outside of the creature, but it must descend within them, and the human will must cede the place to the divine. It must be concurring, because we do not want forced things. And when we have found her, who can tell you what we do, the graces that we pour, the good that we want for her? It is not dealing with works, but our life that we must grow. So we do not spare anything, and only in heaven will what we have done be known. Therefore be attentive, and always live under the reign of my volition, so that investing all your acts, it animates them with its life, and in this way you will give me as many children for however many acts you will do. End of March 14th. Fiat.